So hi everyone, I'm Lucretia. I am a community outreach dietitian over at Otis Moss.
And I'm Ryan Hamel. I'm the System Culinary Manager with Sodexo and University Hospitals.
So today we're going to be making a really delicious recipe. It's going to be a white bean chili, and it's a great way to include some leftovers you may have in your refrigerator, using some canned goods you have available, and it's just a way to eat healthy but also use convenient foods. We all know the school year is starting and things are going to get a little more hectic, so this is a time where we should really try to utilize things that we have in our fridge, refrigerator, freezer, or we should pick those more convenient things. So for example, adding more fruit into our diet, trying to use like some canned things, dried fruit, frozen fruits are great ways to add those additional things, but making sure when we're focusing on low sugar or no added sugars is always the way to go. Even with your dried fruit, having no added sugars, and make sure you're checking that nutrition label to make sure that that's the case. With the vegetables, canned vegetables are excellent and a great way to add more vegetables into your diet, but making sure they're low sodium, no sodium, and if you can't find that, just simply rinsing them off. And then having some beans and legumes. So this recipe has great beans, and it's always great to use a dry bean, but sometimes we don't have time to soak our beans, and a great canned bean is a way to go, and using that low sodium canned bean is a great way as well.
Great, so I'm gonna walk you through our ingredients here, and we've got a bunch of different things going on. I've got some peppers and onions already sauteing. We use Cubanelle peppers today. You can put poblanos in the recipe. If you don't like the heat, you can scale it back and just do green peppers. I've also got some, dial that back a little bit. I've also got some diced green chilies. These are Hatch green chili peppers from Colorado, New Mexico area. They're great, tons of flavor, not a lot of heat. They're one of my favorites. I've also got a can of diced tomatoes, a couple ears of corn. Corn's great right now. I just roasted this over the fire, over the stove, straight up. You could do it in the broiler, or you cook it on the grill, or if you have a grill pan, that works. If you don't have access to any of that, frozen corn also does wonders. And you can just buy a little bag. It's picked at the heat of its ripeness, or the peak of its ripeness. It's cooked very quickly and then flash frozen. I use frozen corn a lot, especially during the winter. Got some fresh garlic, ground coriander, ground cumin, dry oregano. These are white Great Northern beans, cannellini beans. If you don't like any of that, use black beans. It's kind of, I always talk about replacing ingredients with the ingredients that you like and love. I've got one jalapeno pepper here. This is how hot I like my white bean and chicken chili. If you like it hotter, use 2, or a habanero pepper would work really nicely. Oh yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And a couple of fresh limes that I think really add a lot of nice acid and freshness to the dish. I've also got some fresh cilantro that we're gonna chop up and throw in at the very end. So I've got one onion, a green pepper, and a cubanelle already sauteing up. To this, we're gonna add a couple cloves of our chopped garlic. Oh, I forgot one thing. I'm sorry. I've also got a rotisserie chicken, and ideally you would use raw chicken, boneless, skinless chicken breast. That's gonna be the healthiest, the cleanest, even a little bit less expensive. But sometimes we're in a crunch and we wanna grab something really quick. This total, all of this stuff that I bought today was $23.60, and this will easily feed a family of 6. So we can still find convenient, quick, cheap dinners in a pinch when we need to in a hurry. We're gonna go through how to break that down here in a second, but I do wanna get this garlic and the jalapeno pepper in the pan with these peppers and onions, just to kind of get the flavors going here. So I've got my couple cloves of garlic. I also wanna add my spices. I've got some ground cumin, some ground coriander, and a little bit of dry oregano. And adding these early is gonna help the oils of the spices come out and add a lot more flavor. And we're gonna get that going. I got about a medium flame. You can see here that I've really put some good color on these onions and peppers. High heat, pinch of salt, let them go for a few minutes. You want them to soften up and then caramelize. And that caramelization adds that really fun roasted flavor. That's gonna help pull this all together, right? Jalapeno pepper. I'm gonna use a couple different cutting boards here because I don't want everything to taste like jalapeno pepper. But I just cut the end off and I cut them in half. If you're sensitive to the capsaicin in the peppers, I recommend using gloves. I've done this enough times and I'm not too worried about it. But then I just take a spoon and I scrape out the seeds and the ribs just like that.
Taking out the seeds makes it a little milder for spice.
Yeah, for sure. Plus, the seeds kind of upset my stomach, so I don't like to have that preference. I got a buddy who likes to just chop up jalapeno peppers, seeds, and everything, and throw them in his chili, and that's the way that he makes it. So, for me, this is my preference. I don't like the ribs either. I'm not a big fan, but I'm just gonna put a fine julienne on that. And then cut across to make a nice fine mince. And we can even save a little bit set a little bit of this aside to garnish our chili with at the end. Because that is kind of a big jalapeno and it will add a lot of heat. So we're gonna add the jalapeno in there. Give it a good stir. And then we've got our can of diced tomatoes, goes right in there. Our white beans. I've got the can of diced green chilies. I didn't drain them or anything. I drained the white beans, but the tomatoes go in there all together. And then I've got just a couple teaspoons, maybe a tablespoon of flour to pull it all together. Because you need just a little bit of thickener in here. Give that a second just to all the flavors come together and brown up just a little bit. We'll crank the heat. And you can see that it's already starting to thicken. Now while that's working, I'm gonna cut the corn off the ear. Corn off the cob. And we're just gonna go straight down. And you want to cut maybe like 5 or 6 stripes. Do it in like kind of how we clean a pineapple. I think the pepper's making my nose run a little bit. This is 2 ears of corn. If you're using frozen corn, it's about 2 cups, maybe a cup and a half. Right now, the corn in Northeast Ohio, it's the end of August. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's super sweet. All right. I'm gonna set this aside, I think. Yep, we're gonna set this aside and we're gonna use that in a little bit. The next thing I wanna work on is this chicken. So when I clean up a rotisserie chicken, I pull it right out and I leave. That's gonna be the stuff that I use. That's gonna be the stuff that I pitch. And today, we're not going to keep the wings or the skin. Now the wings are usually for me. I set those aside. Wingtips come off. And the wings I'll bring over here. And I'll munch on those. And then I'll start to work off all the meat and then keep it in the bottom corner. Chicken faces us with its legs down. The leg comes right off. These things are cooked. They're so tender, they're juicy. And then there's a little oyster right there, a little chunk of thigh meat that you can pop out. The back is gonna go in here. I'm sorry. And then we've got our wing bones come out. And I'm gonna take the skin off of this as well, because we don't want all that extra grease and fat in there. Now you could use boneless, skinless chicken breast, boneless, skinless chicken thighs, or other great things to use here. Again, this is just kind of a convenience item that we wanted to use because it's quick. There you
You're
go.
gonna definitely get more flavor from the rotisserie.
Yeah.
But if it's, it's crunch time, you got the baseball practice, you gotta put the kids to bed, then this could be an option to use canned chicken with this as well.
So once we've got all that little bits off, I'm gonna take the breasts and just separate them from the keel bone. They come off very easy. Just slide your fingers right along the inside there. And you can see there's your ribs. The wishbone, you want to set that aside and have the kids pull it apart later, that's fine. And then the other breast comes right off. And then I'll pick out there's a little piece of meat in there that I like to pick out. A little piece of meat in there. Up here, and then I'll actually kind of sit around and get this nice and clean and munch on the scraps. And then we can just chop these up. We'll take our knife, just an easy, quick dice.
You made that look really easy. I've never
Right?
remembered a rotisserie chicken, but he made it look really easy. So.
Real quick, we'll cut out a couple strips, set it aside. Again, all of this is going to go in this little black bowl here, and this is going to go right in the stew. And then the legs and the thighs, again, we're going to peel the skin off, and we're going to get rid of the skin. I know. Everybody watching is saying, that's the best part though, Chef Ryan. I'm not a big fan of store-bought rotisserie chicken skin, personally. And then the leg, there's a bunch of like sinew and stuff in here. The legs are kind of a pain in the butt. You peel the bone out and then open it up, and you can see that there's like all these little fine bones. We're gonna get rid of those. And there's that big chunk of cartilage from the knee. That comes out. Probably never look at a chicken the same way again. And then I just like to kind of squeeze it a little bit to make sure I got all the non-edible parts out. Again, we'll go through. The thigh comes off. Thigh bone comes out. These are just falling apart. Want to make sure that we don't have any cartilage in there at all. This one looks great. Get rid of the skin. And then break the leg apart. Leg bone comes out. Peel the skin off. These are a little bit easier to clean up when they're kind of still warm, so do it quick when you get home from the store. But I love using rotisserie chickens for like chicken salad or making a quick little pasta dish. All right. Now we're gonna run our knife through those too. Very easily. And we've got our entire boned out chicken. After practice, that'll take you just a few minutes. I've got about a quart of chicken stock going in this pan over here. And we're gonna add about half of it and stir it up. And you can see everything's kind of coming together. We're gonna add the other half in. We just want to do that so there's no lumps. I'm going to keep about maybe a cup behind to make sure that I don't have too much. We could also put potatoes in here if you wanted to, red potatoes. Chicken goes in, along with all the juices that the chicken left behind. And then we're going to go ahead and add the rest of that because it for sure needs it. All right. We've got all that stuff in the pan. We're gonna cover this. We're gonna let it cook for about 20 minutes so everything comes together, the flour has a chance to activate. And then once that's done, we're gonna come back and we're gonna finish it with some corn, some lime, and some fresh cilantro. So our chili's been simmering for about 20 minutes now. It's starting to thicken up nicely. The chicken is falling apart, but not like completely falling apart, but it's starting to loosen up. The vegetables are cooked all the way through. We're we're gonna add our corn that we chopped earlier, and that's gonna go right in. It's gonna break up as it cooks. Give it a couple minutes here, and while that is finishing, because the corn, once we grill it, it's cooked. And if you cook it too long in the broth, it's gonna get like chewy and stick to your teeth. It's not fun. We kind of want to keep it still nice and crunchy. That's how I like it. So just kind of break those kernels up a little bit. You know, if you get a big bite of corn, you get a big bite of corn. It's fun. That's gonna go to the side. And we're gonna finish this with some fresh chopped cilantro and a squeeze of half a lime. And when I do my limes, I like to roll them around on the cutting board nicely. It gets them nice and soft. Cut it in half really quick. And then we'll take half of this and we're gonna cut it into quarters. Personally, I like to squeeze just a little bit of lime on my chili at the end right before I eat it.
Right.
We're gonna put half of this into the chili. And then a little bit of fresh chopped cilantro. So I don't get too fussy when I'm chopping cilantro or parsley. The stems are also edible, and I'm kind of lazy, so I'll chop everything together. So I just kind of pull it into a little bunch here and run my knife through it. We're gonna put some right into the chili. I'm doing nice, really tiny, fine chiffonade here because I don't want to have to work too hard. And we'll cut that basically down to the twisty tie. And then I take the whole thing and turn it sideways. And then go right back and do it the other way. Cilantro is not a tough herb at all. It's nice and leafy and super tender. It breaks apart easily. Plus, every once in a while you get a nice little big leaf. We'll run our knife back and forth through it a couple times. But that is the gist of it. We're gonna take about half of that. That goes in our stew, or our chili rather. And then we're just gonna schmiggle it up here. Quick little stir. We'll grab a spoon, check for seasoning. The rotisserie chicken comes seasoned, so we didn't add any extra salt to the dish at all. There's already some salt in there. We're just gonna check it really quick and make sure it's good. Oh wow. Now a little bit of pepper, because I like the bite. You want to try it, Lucretia?
Absolutely. Awesome.
And I really think that's dead on. I'm not going to add any more salt to this at all. I think that we've got enough between the chicken stock that we used and the rotisserie chicken. And it pops, right? Yeah. Right at the end, yeah. So this is good. I'm going to turn the heat off, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's all together. This is good. And if you want to stretch this a little bit, you could put it over some brown rice or some diced potatoes. I'll put a lime right in there. A little bit of fresh cilantro. You could throw some queso cotija on top of this or some tortilla chips, whatever you want to do to kind of finish it. This is real simple, and I wanted to keep it under 24 bucks today. And that's it. That's our white bean and chicken chili.
Awesome. And you know, guys, just make sure that when you're buying fresh fruits and vegetables, consider things that are in season. That'll help you save on the budget. So like we were saying, the corn is in season right now. Tastes extra delicious. It's going to be more budget friendly because of that. Buy things in bulk when you can, especially when it comes to like grains, even proteins, getting something family size, breaking it down into Ziploc bags, and making sure that, you know, adding those beans and legumes, it's going to help stretch your meal as well and be a great way to add some extra protein, but also be very budget friendly. And guys, this is my last recording that I'll be doing. I will be moving on at a new point in my life. So I just want to thank you so much for watching all the cooking videos, coming to the cooking classes. We love to show you how to eat healthy and treat your body well. So thank you for your time.